A lot of the wisdom that we find in Proverbs then is practical, common sense advice. But it isn't a lot of unrelated homilies, because a life of discipline and discernment and dedication to doing good requires to have God at the heart of that life structure. In the opening chapter of Proverbs, we read, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge." Chapter 1, verse 7. That's repeated again in chapter 9, verse 10, where the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So what is this fear of the Lord? It's a profound reverence for him. It's the deep respect that flows from a recognition that we stand in relation to him as creatures before a creator. Therefore, we have to acknowledge that the principles that he lays down for our lives are best. And if we deviate from them, then by definition we are in the wrong. So he is our creator, and we stand before him as creatures under that creator's power. That is the fear of the Lord. And as a result of this fear of the Lord, all the values, all the practices that we establish for our lives must take the Lord as their reference point. He is the beginning of wisdom. So if the character that I develop is a building, then he is the foundation of that building. Everything is based on him and what he has laid down for me. Any other foundation is unstable. The Lord Jesus, of course, told a similar lesson to that in the parable he told of the two men who were building a house in Matthew chapter 7. One of them built on sand, and the house didn't stand the storm. The other one built on the rock, and his house stood firm. All wisdom is built on the rock of Jesus Christ. All true wisdom starts with him. He is the beginning of wisdom. Now, Western 21st century people want freedom. That's what we want more than anything else. Freedom to establish our own personal value systems. This was one of the great principles of the Enlightenment, that man had the ability to develop his own system of values independent from God or anyone else. And there was also a view that the growth of scientific knowledge in particular created the possibility for us to have answers to all questions. And that view is still being said and trumpeted throughout the media. Science will give us the answers to everything. Science will give us the answers to absolutely everything. And perhaps more sinisterly than that, only the questions that science answers are valid questions. The problem is that while advances in science are fantastic, and they really are beneficial, and they have helped humanity to a tremendous extent, they do not seem able to help our moral development. How can a society as advanced as Germany in the 1930s produce the Nazi regime? How can a society as scientifically advanced as ours today tolerate the growing gap that there is between the rich and the poor? And one of the reasons I think there is such a negative reaction to the Christian message these days is that the postmodern approach to life encourages individuals to take their own meanings from events, to establish their own ideas of right and wrong, if they would even use terms like that. And because of that, they kick against the authoritarian or so-called authoritarian teaching of the Christian message, which would dare to make pronouncements on what is right and what is wrong and what is the sort of conduct that we should follow. But of course, this isn't just a problem for our generation. You can find the same issue in the Garden of Eden, way back in Genesis, in the Garden of Eden. The serpent's temptation of Eve was that if she ate the forbidden fruit, she would be like God, knowing good and evil. She would have the ability to understand what is good and what is evil and make her own moral judgments. And verse 6 of Genesis chapter 3 says that Eve ate the fruit because it was attractive, but also, perhaps more importantly, because it was desirable for gaining wisdom. Desirable for gaining wisdom. And mankind has been eating that fruit ever since, trying to be like God by trying to determine good and evil independently from him. But that really is a spurious wisdom. It's a false wisdom, and it's a futile approach to life, because there is no real knowledge, there is no real wisdom without fear of the Lord as its starting point. Verse 29 of the first chapter of Proverbs says, "Those who hated knowledge did not choose to fear the Lord." Those who hated knowledge did not choose to fear the Lord. On the other hand, Proverbs 2 verse 5, "Those seeking wisdom understand the fear of the Lord." Okay, but how do we build a life that's lived in the fear of the Lord? The best clue, I think, is in Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 to 8. Very well-known verses, but really critical, I think. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones." Three particular things out of this. Trust in the Lord, first of all. Lean not on your own understanding. We have to trust him, and real trust means commitment, means surrendering our autonomy to his lordship, not following what is wise in our own eyes, but what is wise in his eyes and what he has revealed. Now, this can be extremely difficult. It can be very difficult for us on a day-to-day basis, but it's the only way of true wisdom. Proverbs 22 says, "Pay attention to and listen to the sayings of the wise. Apply your heart to what I teach, so that your trust may be in the Lord." Proverbs 22. Trust in the Lord. Do not lean on your own understanding. Second thing, in all your ways acknowledge him. Fear the Lord, shun evil. So we trust in the Lord, but we have to put it into practice, acknowledging his standards and his ways on a daily basis. The fear of the Lord governs our conduct and teaches us to avoid evil. Proverbs 14, "A wise man fears the Lord and shuns evil, but a fool is hot-headed and reckless." Proverbs chapter 16, "Through the fear of the Lord a man avoids evil." The fear of the Lord is fundamental. Acknowledging him and his ways on a daily basis. And as a result, the third point is that he will make our paths straight. He will bring health and to our bodies and nourishment to our bones. So there's the final result, blessing. Proverbs 14 says, "He who fears the Lord has a secure fortress, and for his children it will be a refuge." The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a man from the snares of death. So if we want a life that is worthwhile, if we want a life that's going to be of lasting value, then we have to defer to him in the decisions that we make and the way to find true wisdom. They have to be built on a secure foundation, which is the fear of the Lord. Because it's the wisdom that comes from our Creator, who made us in his image, that is the guiding light for our lives. That wisdom may be at odds with the outlook of our contemporaries, but it's the way to true fulfillment. Proverbs 23 says, "Do not let your heart envy sinners, but always be zealous for the fear of the Lord. There is surely a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off." The fear of the Lord is fundamental to any understanding of practical wisdom.